Alright, howdy folks. We are back. We are going to be cleaning up this carburetor. Hopefully the gaskets are still good. This one I probably will have to replace, but I'm going to see if I can save it. The bowl gaskets are usually the ones that it's a 50-50 chance. This one has got a newer gasket, so it should be reusable, and the same with the bowl nut gasket. Now, we haven't used it that much on the channel lately, but we're going to be using the channel sponsor's product, Super Clean. Just spray, spray, spray. Now, one of the big things with this carburetor, what happened is that the Welch plug on the side came out. Now, I'm trying to actually, with the Super Clean, kind of neutralize a lot of the gas and chemicals with it. Plus, I don't like constantly smelling like gas. You know, and, you know, I don't know about you, but my girlfriend just does not like me smelling like fuel all the bloody time. So, we're gonna... Now, one thing to note about these carburetors is that they are SAE sizes. You can get metric sizes to fit, but truly they are a SAE carburetor. This carburetor nut, for instance, this is a 7/16 carburetor nut. So, the bowl, actually, this is where I'm going to break this carburetor down for you folks. This bowl nut is also your main jet. If you look inside there, you'll see that this is also your main jet. So, I'm going to take it all apart, and I'm going to shoot it with some carb spray. Now, the one thing about it is that if you've got a Tecumseh book, the Tecumseh books tell you flat out, don't use harsh carb sprays. Now, they haven't made a freaking Tecumseh engine in 11 years. And Certified Parts Group, they don't always have everything in stock anymore, so I can see a lot of water in this bowl at the bottom. Yeah, that's water. So this is why you should try and drain your tanks every year. Even if you've got them shut off, water can still seep into your fuel. So, I really do like this stuff. And the nice thing about this stuff, folks, is that it's non-flammable. So you don't have to worry about, did you get it all off, you know. It's non-flammable. So realistically, in locations where, you know, you got to worry about, is it flammable or not, you don't have to, because this stuff is non-flammable. It's a little corrosive, so you got to watch out what you put it on, but that's the nice thing about the Super Clean. Is that it's a detergent that actually is not highly flammable. Now, if you read in the book, you'll see in the book that if it looks like that, where the black is the black oxide coating is gone, they tell you to replace these. typically you can get away with cleaning them up and, you know, cleaning them up. We're just going to dip it in some of the super clean. We're going to pull this up. Now, make sure that you don't lose your needle, because that goes on the bottom right there. Now, if you notice, this is one of the newer floats because it says CPC, Certified Parts Corporation. So, the older, they had these that said Tecumseh on them, and they literally would have said it right where CPC is. So, keep that in mind. Now, some people like to rod through these carburetors. You know, that's personal preference. For me, if I can get it clean without having to rod through it with the files, I'm actually happy, because then I know I'm not changing sizing. And yes, I have done it, and it works. You just can't freaking go hog wild with it, okay? I've done the drill bit technique. I've done a lot of it. Now, on the side, your heater box bracket, because this is off of a snowblower, so it's got a heater box. It does not have a air cleaner, because if you actually read, it's supposed, snowblowers are what they call clean environment engines. They run in a clean environment, so they don't need an air filter. So, yeah, you see the more modern ones with air filters, but these old Tecumsehs, you know, they never had an air filter to them. Now, in my readings, they did offer a freaking kit that you could put on these that would allow you to run an air filter, but I doubt anybody actually ran an air filter on these. And I mean, some of these units are 40, 50 years old, and they've never seen an air filter. And they're running just fine. So, here, we're going to use some of the spray stuff. Oh, yeah. Oh, that nice citrusy smell from that. Oh, my gosh. And as you can see inside, we got a little gummy. So, yeah, well, that gasket does not look like it's going to be safeable. But, yay. So, parts that I will tell you you need to run through. Of course, your intake passage for your fuel. Around your throttles, your throttle blade, and around your choke blade. Now, this is where you're going to have to get yourself a standard or flathead screwdriver. This out. That's your low-speed jet. There's the Tecumseh carburetor tool, and then we can pull these out. The brass washer always goes behind the O-ring. So when you put it back together, if the brass washer is not facing you, you have not put the brass washer in correctly. Because the brass washer is what protects the O-ring from the spring on your low-speed jet. And that's how it would actually go back into the carburetor. But we're going to be cleaning these up, so into the parts degreaser it goes. We're going to set these two off to the side, throw that in, put a little bit more super clean in there, and now I don't want to damage this Teflon seal with the amount of carb spray, so we're going to pull it out. Now, when you're going to put these back in, if you don't have the tool, like I do here, that seats it in there just nice and perfect, Tecumseh says you're supposed to do it with a drill bit, the back end of a drill bit. So, and I've done it before, and I've even done it with the back end of those drill bits that have the 3 flute cutout put in them. They work, so you don't have to worry, but yeah. Now we're going to set that off to the side, because Daddy needs some coffee. What am I doing? I haven't even got my coffee over here. We're going to ram through the main jet. Okay. Now we're going to go through the idle jet. Now, because the Welch plug on the side here is been removed, essentially, it's going to come shooting out here, and it's going to come shooting out the main jet. So, okay. Really, folks, I'll tell you exactly where I use the little frickin' wires. The little frickin' wires to rod stuff out really come into play when you're working on those little itty bitty holes there. That is where you want to get yourself some tag wire. Some really thin tag wire. And that's what actually Tecumseh says you're supposed to use, is tag wire. So, and I've done it with, I've tried to do it with bread ties. Bread ties, the wire inside of a bread tie actually is way too big for the holes. You have to literally go and get tie wire. The really, really thin stuff. At the time I was working out in industry, so you're pulling tags off of crates and everything, so it was just nothing for me to go over to the garbage, pull out a tag and put it in my pocket and go home. I'm actually trying to figure out where the heck the average person would get tag wire from, but I really just don't know. I hate to say this, but I don't know. So, at this point, we've got the carburetor pretty well tore apart. We can take the choke assembly off, you know. You know what? I think we're going to use some power tools. Not very often I say, oh yes, let's use power tools on carburetor parts, but when it comes to blasting parts off, don't put them on with an impact. You can take them off with one, but you can't. Okay, we're going to put that over there. So, let's look at this beautiful carburetor parts. Whoa! Yeah, we've been running some wonky. I know that I have not fed this thing really nicely, I'll tell you that. So, realistically, we are looking at a lot of carboning inside the carburetor, which tells me we have been running slightly more on the richer side than we need to. I'm going to take this over to the garbage can. I'm going to spray it out. You're going to Now another shot I forgot to actually show you is there's this little itty bitty hole. Let me get the tool here. There's this little itty bitty hole right there. You can barely see it. Here, let me go get that carburetor I was showing you a few weeks ago. That one's actually got a bigger hole. But you got a hole right there. That hole is your breather hole for your low speed stuff. Your low speed stuff actually takes a lot more passages than your high speed stuff. Your high speed stuff, really, it comes essentially from the float bowl straight up and into the motor. Your low speed, it comes from the float bowl through your idle jet to these holes, but it blends with your bleed off hole here to the point that that is all tied into your system. Now, because this one has a external primer bulb, it's got a line here. All this does is pump air. This line does not pump fuel, it pumps air. And what it does is it really draws fuel through that idle jet, through these passages, and shoves it into the motor. That's how you get the primer effect. It works pretty well for what it's supposed to do. You know, there's controversy on, oh, does it actually work? Does it? And plus, it charges your actual fuel bowl with with fuel. So when it comes down to it, if you've got like an air pocket inside your fuel bowl and you're pushing that primer, it's sucking the fuel out, the air pocket out, shoving more fuel into the bowl, then realize that it's forcing you to de-seat your needle and seat just enough to let a little bit more fuel in. So now to put these back together, the Welch plugs are the one thing that are kind of that pain in the ass. Yeah, you think it's in. You think it's in. No, it is not in until you really wail on it. And then here's the thing. When you're done, Tecumseh says put a little bit of nail polish around it so that it actually seals. And that is one of the biggest reasons why they tell you do not use harsh chemicals in your Tecumseh carburetor. So these Welch plugs, the way that they're held in, it's that press fit, but yet you still have to seal them somehow because, you know, that's the whole thing. So that's why you're not supposed to, in my mind, that's the only reason why I find that you cannot run harsh chemicals in a Tecumseh carburetor and all these exotic fuels. Other than that, yeah, these carburetors hold up tremendously well. As long as you don't have trash running through them, they hold up tremendously well. Now, let's take a look at that idle jet. Oh, wow. Look at how well that worked. So, yeah, I want to thank Super Clean for sending us their products, and I'm trying to find where I can get more of this so that I can tell you folks where I've seen the foaming aerosols. I've seen the wheel cleaners at Menards and at AutoZone, at least the ones here in Fargo. I have yet to see the spray cans, and it's weird because you would think that they put the spray cans right next to the 32-ounce spray bottles. For some weird reason, at least in Fargo, I'm not finding them. I'm finding the absorbent stuff. I'm finding the 32-ounce spray bottle. I'm finding the 1 gallon jugs. I'm finding the 2.5 gallon jugs. I'm finding the 5 gallon jugs. I want to see more of this on the shelf, because this is actually a foaming cleaner that works. You know, and oh, for those of you that say, oh, I only do Chinese products, this is made in America. You know, this is made in Eagan, Minnesota, folks. So tell them that Cars and Welders turned you onto this stuff. Because, yeah, in some ways, I kind of like this stuff more than I do carb spray now. It's a lot gentler on parts. I'll tell you this much, even though it's supposed to be corrosive, it doesn't dry out my hands as bad as carb spray. Now, I am going to still tell you, use it with caution, wear protective equipment, but if you're one of those guys that just has to be roughing it, it's a lot easier on my hands than... And look, folks, in the like, this is like real time-lapse stuff. You know, look at that. You know, and as you can see, I haven't shut the camera off at all. I mean, heck, I even went off screen and blew through the carburetor into the garbage can. But and yeah, get it through this port. You're gonna have carb spray. You should have carb spray actually shooting out. If you got a full can of carb spray and you get it in there nice, you should have carb spray shooting out that hole. You should have it shooting out the bottom, shooting out all over the place. So now putting these back together is actually fairly simple. It's a lot simpler than people think. Okay, you're going to look at your gasket for your bowl. It's got a taper to it. You can, I don't know if the camera's going to pick up the taper, but it's got a taper to it. So you put the wide end down so that when you seat the bowl, it seats at that taper. You know, let's see, did I put the thing on backwards? I think I did. I think I put it on backwards, folks. Okay. Yeah. We'll let that dry out a little. But, oh yeah. Soak that. And we're going to take the brass off that, the O-ring, and we're going to let that soak. Now we're going to put the idle jet back together, and then the brass ring, and then your O-ring, and then we stick it. Now have your carburetor facing down. This one's shot because it's supposed to rattle a little, but this one's shot. But we're gonna deal with that. But have it facing down, you know, like it would be in the engine. We're gonna spin this all the way in, and we're going to back it out half, one, half. I go a little rich on my idle setting. I go a little on the leaner side with the main jet setting. Now, you're going to need some sort of a lubricant for this Teflon seal that goes inside your seat. Okay. Got a little bit of lubricante. Now I'm going to use the tool because I have it. Now, there's two sides to this seal. There is the side that just has a number, and then there's the side that has the ridge. Okay? The ridge always goes down because these are slightly tapered, and you just and that's why you need the lubricant, is so that you can actually get these all the way seated. And once it's seated, then you can start working on your seat adjustments. Now, I can't remember the exact drill size, but if you've got the tool, many of you probably know this, if you have the tool, but the tool body here between the two flats, there is a reason for that. You know, they didn't just make it like that for just putting the bloody number on. No, there's an actual reason why these have there we go. Now we're going to stick our shaft back in. Now, you set your float height actually with this. You put that between the body of the carburetor and the float. This one's perfect still, surprisingly. But yeah, now when you've got it all cleaned out, you've got that welt plug punched back in. You know what, we're just going to use the Super Clean here as a lubricant. Besides that, I'm betting that the whole big reason why this thing is swelled so bad is because of the there we go. Now, I'm going to go fishing for that seal. The seal goes there. Now, you can leave the jet needle in, but you know, you don't want to go all hog wild with the tightening. Now actually, I don't know if I got the bowl on the correct way. Silly me. Silly wabbit. Twix are for freaking kids. Yep. Now I do it this way, where I have the step. And the thing is that realistically, the step in a Tecumseh carburetor bowl is there to prevent the needle from sticking wide open. So now you don't want over tighten these because these are very, very easy to warp that carburetor bowl. These carburetor bowls will warp just by you looking at them wrong. Okay. Now, I think we can take this out of the bath. And we can now clean it up. Look at how shiny that brass is. And yeah, I do believe that these are brass because I used one that I had as a screw actually, and I needed to tap an extra set of threads into it, so yeah. Now we're going to put our needle back in. We're going to just until it stops. Don't be cranking on it, you know. Now we're going to go half, one. I go a little lean on my stuff because I'd rather richen it up a little bit on the later side, especially when it comes to getting the engine to warm up, because you got to actually tune your carburetor when it's warm. When the engine's hot, you know, up all the way up to operating temperature. So I kind of cheat a little, and I just run it on a little bit on the lean side so that I can actually get it to warm up faster, so that I can actually get it to do what it's supposed to faster. So, and we're gonna put that in. So realistically, all you gotta do is put your choke linkage back on, put the bracket for the heater box back on, and we'll clean that up a little bit. I just can't believe how well this super clean is working. An actual product that you get what you pay for. So, well, almost looks like I hit it with a wire brush, with a wire wheel. Actually, this stuff is taking off rust even. Gives me some ingenious ideas, especially for heating and quenching work. So, heater box bracket. And we'll dip them in, let them soak. So, if you've got any questions on these carburetors, folks, put it down in the comments and I'll see what I can dig up. I have the carburetor manual in a PDF form. They don't even print the carburetor manuals anymore, and it's harder than hell to find them, even in PDF form. So, I hope this helped some of you folks. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.